With the recent controversy surrounding the pricing of the new LEGO Star Wars wave, I thought it would be a good time to take a deep dive into the value proposition of each of these sets, looking at the Disney tax, past iterations, and how inflation, as well as LEGO's corporate greed, may play a role in the pricing. Starting with the most anticipated set of the wave, we have the Republic Juggernaut, or more commonly known as the Turbo Tank. As you'll soon find, there's nothing really turbo about this set. At a jaw-dropping $159 for 813 pieces, coming out to 20 cents per piece, the set is hardly a deal. Most advocates for this set will say something about inflation, that because of rising prices in the short to medium term, LEGO is ultimately forced to raise prices. But when you adjust the prices of each of the three past iterations, none of them come close to the price per piece we have today. And this is even before we consider the controversial design choices LEGO made in this set. Of course, I'll be the first to admit that using the measurement of price per piece being imperfect, given that it doesn't account for larger bricks, printed pieces, new molds, and minifigure counts. But given the difficulty in creating a model with weights for all of these that are agreeable to everyone, we'll go with it. So let's start off with a fair price. I think the historical benchmark has been around 10 cents per piece, but if we try to account for inflation, using the year 2010 as the base, we get around 15 cents per piece. Multiplied by the piece count, we arrive at a price of a little over $120. So that makes this set overpriced by about $40. The set itself has a few arguable flaws. There's the elephant in the room of downsizing. Like the practice of shrinkflation commonly used by consumer goods companies, LEGO in recent years seems to have significantly downsized the size of its sets. From 2020's AAT, 2021's Boba Fett Starship, TIE Fighter, and X-Wing, to the more recent ARC 170, now the upcoming Turbo Tank, Jango Fett Starship, and V-19 Torrent, LEGO has been on a trend of trading size for structural integrity and arguably more detail within the build itself. But while some sets have been able to thread the needle, so to speak, I don't think the Turbo Tank was successful in that regard. With a periscope that seems to easily come out when pulled, an empty engine room emblematic of LEGO's confused design ethos, not unlike the front of a certain gunship that released 2 years ago, a black turret that can't swivel, and structural integrity that seems very much lacking, the LEGO Turbo Tank of this year seems to have very much missed the mark. In terms of size, it's the smallest one yet, and as we saw earlier, does not exactly seem to make good use of the saved pieces. Which begs the question, where do these pieces go to? This is especially concerning given that the 2005 Turbo Tank, believe it or not, has 12 fewer pieces, but as you can see in this picture, is much larger in size. So what's the verdict on this set? It includes 2 long-coveted figures, an official Commander Bakara and 3 of the Galactic Marines. If it was 10 years ago, I would have complained about the lack of wastegapes, but since this is a mainstay across LEGO Star Wars today, I feel like I'm forced to take it as given. I think the helmet for Bakara is a bit too high, but that might be the result of nearly 15 years of staring at the versions made by Clone Army Customs. If you take away the figures and replace them with some clones we've seen before, I think the magic of novelty quickly wears off. And with the price that's been shown to exceed inflation, coupled with the lackluster design, if I really wanted the figures, I think the more measured approach would be to buy them separately. While this would be a large sum for each figure, I'm spending less overall, and I'm not left with a vehicle that I want nothing to do with. Moving on to the set with the second most controversy, the 327th Star Corps Clone Trooper Battle Pack. At $44.99 for 258 pieces, no matter how you spin it, the set is expensive. And frankly, it saddens me to say that. The Star Corps was my favorite Clone Legion growing up. I even made my own Phase 1 Commander blind with yellow Sharpie, creating the macro binoculars with a combination of whiteout, a visor piece, and a perfectly sized cutout LEGO stick piece. The set comes out to 17 cents per piece, and I was originally planning on comparing the inflation-adjusted prices of the former battle packs, but a simpler way to do this would be to compare it to the Clone Trooper and Battle Droid battle pack that released in 2024. Comparing prices directly, the Star Corps battle pack is 50% more expensive. But let's be honest, the majority of the value someone derives from these types of sets is from the figures. The clone figures especially, since the droids tend to average $1 or less in the aftermarket. So what you have with rough math is $11.25 compared to $7.50 per figure. I'm not saying that the droids in build are valued at nothing, but I'm also saying that people definitely don't arrange rows and rows of the clone walkers on gray base plates as opposed to the clone troopers. Next we have the V-19 Torrent, which to be honest, I don't have many bad things to say about it. Compared to the 2008 version, it actually comes out with nearly 100 more pieces, as well as a better price per piece both before and after adjusting for inflation. The build, while not coming with entirely accurate shorter wings, is a good size for display in the dock position. I'll say that I wish it came with a brick build stand for flight mode, but with the set including a new helmet mold for the new pilot, an updated Star Wars version of both Obi-Wan Kenobi and Asajj Ventress, complete with arm and leg printing, I can't really find anything to complain about. Next we have the MTT. While coming with similar pricing and downsizing issues as the Turbo Tank, I think ekes out slightly in value for money. The MTT has certainly seen better days, with most people seeing the 2007 version as the one to beat. This year's edition comes with 6 regular battle droids, 1 droid pilot, a brand new Commander Bly, an updated Ayla Secura, as well as 3 updated commando droids. The MTT's build looks robust, with a smooth droid deployment mechanism and good use of the space in the back for weapon storage. I do wish it made better use of the empty space in the back coming from the 2007 version, where they were able to fit in an entirely separate speeder. The price, however, is still expensive at 16 cents per piece, and for this price they certainly could have added much more side builds or figures to the set, since the '07 version costs about the same when its price is adjusted for inflation, but includes much more. The last set we're going to be taking a look at today is Jango Fett Starship. It takes notable design cues from 2021's Boba Fett Starship, most notably including a vehicle that doubles as a stand. At about 10 cents per piece, I can't really fault its price. Coming with a brand new figure of Lama Su, as well as the previously UCS exclusive Jango and Boba Fett, the lineup of figures is pretty good. Although it's important to note that the Jango is missing his arm printing. One might argue that it keeps the UCS version valuable. But since LEGO was so willing to give away the Rex and the Captain Rex microfighter, I think this is instead another example of LEGO skimping on the details to save on costs. In terms of the other sets of this wave, I'm going to summarize each of my thoughts in a single sentence. The Force Burner Snowspeeder, UCS ATST, and Wicked Buildable figure are overpriced by $15, $50, and $30 respectively, while the K2SO is just alright. So what can we make of all of this? This upcoming summer wave is one of the most expensive I've ever seen, with it not just being an issue of absolute prices, but how much you get for your money. We can conjecture and say that a large part of it comes from the Disney tax, but without clear evidence, at most we can place some blame on LEGO, taking advantage of their brand equity to gradually increase LEGO Star Wars prices. There's of course a bright side to this. Prices aside, it's the first time in a while that there's been so many prequel sets out all at once on shelves. But of course, because this is a product, price should ultimately be the top consideration. And in a period of record inflation around the world, I think that the prices of many of these sets leaves much to be desired.